top story today on Up South is from Karnataka, where frustrated by corruption in the Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme, a 24-year-old civil engineer of Mysore district, because he was asked to fake bills, he immolated himself in Karnataka. In fact, angered by what happened, villagers actually ransacked the hospital after he was rushed there, where he succumbed to his burn injuries.
Frustrated with the increasing corruption in the Manrega scheme, a 24-year-old civil engineer immolated himself in Mysore district in Karnataka. 24-year-old Suresh, who worked as a civil engineer in Chamarajnagar, about 150 kilometers away from Bengal, ended his life after he failed to fight corruption. Suresh was being repeatedly asked to clear fake bills by Chamarajnagar Zilla Panchayat CEO. He complained to his seniors, but they went unheard. Unable to deal with the frustration, he took the extreme step.
ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಬ್ಬರು ನೇಮಕ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಂತವನು ಅಲ್ಲಿಯ ನರೇಗಾ ಯೋಜನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೇಮಕ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು. ಅಲ್ಲಿಯ ಗ್ರಾಮ ಪಂಚಾಯತ್ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷ ಅವರ ಗಂಡ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪಿಡಿಒ ಇವರುಗಳ ಕಿರುಕುಳದಿಂದ
He had dreams of working in a just and corruption-free environment, but his dreams were reduced to dust.
ನಾನು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇವ್ರ ಪ್ರತಿ ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ಸು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇವ್ರ ಆ ಥರ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಇವ್ರು ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಮಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದರೆ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಲ್ಲ.
While India was swept by the anti-corruption movement, there seems to be little that has changed on the ground. Modi government's agenda too was to eradicate corruption in the country, but that dream tragically seems to be far from reality. With Ratnika Sharma in Bangalore, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Joining me on Up South is former Lokayukta of Karnataka, Justice Santosh Hegde. Also, Revati Ashok, the COO of the Bangalore Political Action Committee, joins us. Justice Hegde, to you first. This kind of a shocking instance of a whistleblower actually ending his life, do you see this as an indication of the honest giving up when faced with the might of the corrupt within the system?
System is very bad. There can be solutions to this problem, but solution should be a long-drawn solution. It can't have a immediate solution to eradicate corruption. There should be public support. The society as such should support such actions against corruption. And unfortunately, it's the failure on the part of the society which leads to people with dejection like this and cause such tragedies. And young life is lost because he couldn't fight corruption.
Right. Justice Hegde, you have dealt with many cases of corruption when you were Lokayukta. What really needs to be done to prevent more such Suresh ending their life?
Well, I think a strong Whistleblowers Act should be brought into force. People who harass, threaten or even cause damage to whistleblowers should be dealt with very severely. Public reaction against such move also should be there against people who attack whistleblowers. Unless there is a concentrated effort from all parts of the society, it will be extremely difficult to keep the whistleblowers going.
Right. A strong Whistleblower Act is what you advocate. Revati Ashok, coming to you, Bangalore led the way as far as the anti-corruption movement was concerned. We had the Saku movement in Bangalore. Has anything really changed on the ground as a result of all this agitation and candlelight processions?
Changes at the ground level are not so simple. They are extremely complex. It's time consuming. Corruption is rooted in our psyche. It's completely ingrained in our day-to-day lives. So to disentangle ourselves from the entire corruption at every level is going to be a very, very complex process. It's a combination of legislative action. It's a combination of government bureaucrats wanting to do certain things, making things transparent so that citizens can see everything for themselves, progress of projects, awarding of projects, etc. Everything made transparent in terms of information being made available, much more public debate on various issues. So it's a complex issue.
Right.
So to answer your question, has corruption come down? Definitely not. But has consciousness gone up? Yes, of course.
Right. Justice Hegde, do you think there should be some kind of a body or perhaps some kind of a helpline where issues of cases like the one that Suresh faced can be addressed? Because most of the time complaints actually fall on deaf ears.
Well, there are many bodies. For example, in Karnataka and many other states, you have the ombudsman like the Lokayukt. The center is planning a Lokpal. But these institutions should have a 24/7 answering system whereby complaints of such whistleblowers are heard and immediately dealt with, and also counsel such whistleblowers to continue to do their job, but be careful.
Right. Thanks a lot, Justice Santosh Hegde, also Revati Ashok, for joining us from Bangalore for a perspective on this very, very tragic story. Now moving on to another story which has been equally tragic, the death of 24 students in the flooding of the Beas River at Laji Dam in Himachal Pradesh on the 8th of June. Now the High Court of Himachal Pradesh has ordered that an FIR be lodged against 3 officials of the Laji Dam, which actually let water into the Beas River on that fateful evening. Also 2 staffers of the VNR college here in Hyderabad who actually had accompanied those students on those trips. And the High Court has also said that it will monitor the case very, very closely. In fact, joining me for an update now is my colleague Pratibha Raman. Pratibha, even the parents who had lost their children had said that they want to lodge a complaint against the college because the college was the de facto guardians. They had actually entrusted their students, their children to the college on this trip. What exactly are the parents telling you now that the High Court of Himachal Pradesh has come out with such an order?
Well, that's right, Sudhi, because many of these parents did complain the fact that many of these college authorities must take the responsibility for the tragedy that has occurred. Number one, the fact that there were 2 guardians there. Number 2, using an unauthorized bus. Number 3, stopping at an unscheduled location. These are some of the factors that have to be considered here, because of which this tragedy has occurred, and that could have been avoided perhaps if the guardians had taken one step forward and foreseen such kind of a circumstance and taken the step forward to protect all these students. So the college is as much responsible as the dam authorities who have been in this particular tragedy. So that is the kind of emotion that many of these parents have expressed, especially after seeing their sons as well as their daughters arriving in coffins.
Right, absolutely. A very tragic story there. Pratibha Raman, thanks a lot for joining us. In fact, the Telangana government has said that it will look to clamp down on these kind of so-called industrial tours outside of Telangana. Now, it has been about 3 weeks since the official bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh. What has changed on the ground? Now, many firms which are established in Hyderabad are now looking east towards Andhra Pradesh. Many of them obviously want to take advantage of the tax incentives, the tax holiday that the new government of Andhra Pradesh will perhaps give them. But for many, it's also an emotional decision to get back to their roots in Andhra Pradesh.
When the union government decided to redraw the boundaries of Andhra Pradesh, Sanjay Devalapalli and Sai Ramesh, founder-directors at Malak Solutions, a 7-year-old IT services company in Hyderabad, decided to branch out as well. With Sanjay hailing from Telangana and Ramesh from Andhra Pradesh, the decision was also motivated by Ramesh's desire to work out of Visakhapatnam, his hometown. Malik Solutions will now set up a unit in Vizag in addition to its operations in Hyderabad.
We've been thinking about it in the last 3 months since the elections happened. Okay, and for me it was purely a business decision. Okay, so if the state of Andhra Pradesh, if it's going to give some exemptions and all that, and then encourage business, and also since we are into e-governance, okay, if they're going to build their new government offices and all that there, we see an opportunity there.
And you coming from Visakhapatnam would want to go back to your roots and want to play a part in developing your state. Is that the way you look at it emotionally?
Emotionally, yes. The answer definitely is yes.
Lakshmi Prasad has decided to move out of Hyderabad to Vizag for slightly different reasons. He feels he's being treated as a second-class entrepreneur in the Telangana state.
We are moving definitely for the business reasons, but there is an underlying emotional reason as well. Where like I was like studying in Nizamabad and I was here like since '83 and like doing business and everything. But the way the state has been bifurcated, that there is a glass ceiling which has developed, and that emotional factor is playing a lot of influence with respect to the operations as well.
Entrepreneurs, especially in the manufacturing sector, are also worried about the restriction that could be placed on the kind of labor they employ. Since the Telangana activists are particular that the locals should be preferred when it comes to employment opportunities.
About 70 to 75% of the jobs pertaining to semi-skilled and unskilled categories should be reserved to the local people. And this includes operators and people below that.
Since June 2nd, when Telangana came into being, over 100 firms have registered themselves in Andhra Pradesh. In comparison, only 12 firms have registered in Telangana. The TDP government is already gloating over the early gains.
Naidu have international image and also good brand. And they have confidence, who has the businessman industry, they have a confidence. Where we were there in Andhra, then the all permissions and law and order, business atmosphere will be good. That's why all businessmen are attracting Andhra Pradesh.
Telangana is a very newly born state. It's the 29th state in India, and it is only 1 month born. And AP, Andhra Pradesh, is already known to the people, and it has been formed since so many years. Now 60 years, the name is famous in all over the market, and everybody knows on to that. We have got a teething problem about this state. We'll definitely overcome it.
But just as Rome was not built in a day, Andhra Pradesh too will face a long gestation period. There are many who will still stay put in Hyderabad, given the question marks over the quality of infrastructure and manpower in Naidu land. But the early flight of entrepreneurship is not something that will help Telangana's brand equity. In Hyderabad with Pratibha Raman, TS Sudhir for Headlines Today.